Hi everybody, welcome to Airbrush Artistry, and today I'm going to do a spray test between the Takumi with the Blair trigger and soft spring in the air assembly setup that has the 0.18 millimeter needle and nozzle setup, and the Evolution that has the 0.15 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. I'm going to do the Evo first. I'll be putting illustration black in that's been reduced to a 1:1, 1 parts paint, 1 parts reducer mixture, and I'm running 22 psi at the compressor. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in my camera so you guys can see better. After I do the spray test, and I'll be spraying for line size, which honest to God truth is irrelevant. You can get, I have the Evolution and a 0.4 millimeter needle nozzle setup. I have an Iwata HPC Plus as the 0.3, and if you get that needle as close as you can to the paper or your canvas or whatever it is you're airbrushing, you can get a fine line with any of those. But the main thing we want to look at is when I do the atomization test. Okay, so let me go ahead and zoom in on the paper. All right, let me put a couple drops of this in here. This is illustration black mixed to 1:1 ratio. Distilled water is the reducer. Just going to put 10 drops in there. Now I'm going to be in the way, but I want to make sure that I give each airbrush the best opportunity to do what it can best. So let's see what we got here. Where's my little sponge? I need my sponge, man. I might be running a little bit too high air pressure, but we'll see. I may need to actually, with the 0.15 millimeter, you really got to a little bit better. I still want to spit on me a little bit. I may have to drop the pressure. Thing is, I know I can get finer lines out of that. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, it's tending to, when it is coming out, I got to move a little bit faster. It atomizes really, really well. It works beautifully, actually. What I'm going to do next here is I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit more here. And see what that does to it. So I put 10 drops of paint in there. I just added another 10 drops of reducer. And we're going to see what that does for it. And that's the thing with when you have a needle and nozzle size this small, your paint reduction is vitally important to get a nice smooth. I mean, I know I can get finer lines than what I've got up there. It wasn't flowing very well. So let me get that mixed up. Make sure I ain't got no tip dry on here. Oh, I'm good to go, man. Yeah, boy. Yeah, it's when you get a good airbrush going, it's just so beautiful how well it works. It's like a well-oiled machine. All right, sorry, but I know my big fat head's gonna be in the way again here. There we go. And that made a world of difference. So the original mixture was, a 1-to-1. And I put 10 drops of it in here. And then I added, it just wasn't flowing enough. I would pull, and I've got the trigger hack in here too as well, which I'll explain later. But one of the biggest issues with H&S that people have had is the trigger response. Is you press down on the arrow and start pulling back on the trigger, and you want to get no paint, you want to get no paint, you wouldn't go no paint, and then you get paint. There is a solution to that. But I know that with the 2024 evolution that they're coming out with, and the 2024 Ultra, they have fixed that problem in those airbrushes. And so, they listened to customers, they listened to feedback, and I knew that they were going to be competitive, that they had to do something with that, and they have solved that problem. So I don't know how far over my camera goes, and I will, after I'm done, I will move my camera over. It really is It works so well. Take care of any tip drying real quick. All right, let me get back at it here. Yeah. It's doing really good. Like I said, it's 0.5 is no joke, man. It's a humdinger because of what you have to get that reduction down to. There we go. Yeah, you can really just, with these detail airbrushes, you can just really, man, you know, they just work beautifully. How well you can just lightly dot, and that's the thing what you're trying to do with the detail airbrush. I mean, the reality is, you're hardly ever actually trying to do a fine line like this. But it's the being able to control a fine mist of paint that you're trying to layer on. That's what really makes these airbrushes shine. And how well you can do that. You know, it's all about control. Okay? So you can see it did much better with the overly reduced with an extra 10 drops of reducer so it was already mixed 1-to-1, and then I put 10 drops in my paint cup, and that's what this is up here, and then I had to add another 10 drops of reducer just so it would spray flow better. It wasn't flowing very well, so I had to pull back further on the trigger, and then when the paint finally came out, it just kind of blobbed it on there. And so that is extremely reduced. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and I'll go ahead and get the Takumi set up and show you examples of that. All right, so I'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. I got my Evolution all cleaned up and everything, and got the Takumi ready to go. And we're at the same setting, 22 psi with illustration black, reduced 1 parts paint to 1 part reducer, and the reducer is distilled water. And so again, I raised my easel a little bit here, and my big head's probably going to be in the way, and but I just want to make sure I can do justice to these airbrushes here. And once I'm done with this, I'll move my camera over so you can get a better view and a better idea. All right, so here we go. Right off the bat, I can tell you that neither one of them like the 1-to-1 ratio very well. I think maybe the Takumi might like it a little bit better. Let me give it a few more runs here. Yeah, the Takumi is a 0.18 millimeter needle and nozzle, and even though the Evolution, I had the 0.15, I can instantly tell the difference. Even there's not that much of a difference between the two. I can tell you that right away that the Takumi, even though it has just a little bit bigger needle and nozzle setup, sprays it better at a 1-to-1 ratio than the Evolution did. I'm going to keep going here. Yeah, it sprays it much better. You know, and because it sprays it much better, it's easier for me to get a finer line with a larger needle size. And that's the funny thing is, you know, a lot of it is just how well your paint is atomized, and every airbrush is going to be a little bit different. Trigger response is also, even though I got the trigger hack on my Evolution, the trigger response on this Micron is better than the H&S. And yeah, I'm just, as soon as I am pulling that trigger back for paint, gosh, it really is a thing of beauty. Man. Alright, so, oopsie. At least that wasn't my airbrush. That'll be, let's see, a 55-year-old man crying, dropping his iwata Takumi on the floor. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and, just like I did with the Evolution, I'm going to put 10 more drops of reducer in this mixture here. Alright, so there's, come on now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. And I'm reducing it with distilled water. Alright, So it's going to be interesting to see what this guy can do. Give it a little back flush to mix it up, let the bubbles settle down. Yeah, wow. It really is. Until you actually have one and spray one, you just don't realize what a fine piece of art this airbrush is. It's hard to explain. You see all the rants and raves about, you know, micron killers, and you know, people think the less expensive airbrushes are better, but you know, a lot of people are, and I don't have one, so I don't have my personal experience with it, but the Krios line of airbrushes are supposed to be, you read the reviews and stuff, and people seem to like them, and they say that they do a good job. But you also, here's the thing too, is you also listen to reviews of people that use master airbrushes, and they rant and rave about how good they are. And the reality is, I'm sorry, but they're made in China, and it's just like when you go to Harbor Freight. Okay, there's some tools you can buy from Harbor Freight, and because of the job that those tools are required to do, they're going to be just fine. But there's other tools that you go and you just don't want to buy from Harbor Freight. Okay, and an airbrush is a precision machined instrument, and the finer the machining process is with that instrument, it's hard to compare it. So let me go over here. That's my rant for the day. Okay. And again, I don't know how well you guys can see it from the angle over there, but the atomization that you get on this airbrush and how much control you have is eloquent, to say the least. All right, that's enough of my rants. Okay, so let's get in here. Sorry about, you got outfit. My ears are clean. I don't have any fuzzies sticking out of my ears. Okay, and they're probably gray hairs anyway. Okay, here we go. And my eyes adjust. See here. The compressor is stopped. Make sure I don't have any tip dry. All right, here we go. Again, iwata micron, custom micron, Takumi with the Blair, short trigger, soft spring air assembly, 0.18 millimeter needle and nozzle setup, illustration black, reduced to a 1-to-1 ratio, and then I add, and that's what this is right here, running at 22 psi, and then I added 10 drops more reducer. It's all mixed up, ready to go. And again, the trigger response on this thing is just instantaneous. I can tell you right now that Just have a little bit of chip drying going on here. Yeah. It's just, the reality is, you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to concentrate as much to get a finer line with the Takumi in a 0.18 millimeter as you do the Evolution with the 0.15. Okay. It's just crazy. Let me see what you guys are looking at there. All right. Just wanted to see how low the camera angle was at here. And let me go over here and yeah, man. The control that you have with the Takumi it's much better than with the Evolution. And this is just my opinion, okay? You guys got to remember, I absolutely love H&S airbrushes. Love the Evolutions I have. Love the fact that the Evolution is much more of a versatile airbrush than the Takumi. Takumi, you got one airbrush. Okay, that's it. One. All right. Evolution, you've got a 0.15 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. You have the 0.2 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. You have a 0.4 and you have a 0.6. Okay. And 3 different cup sizes. Matter of fact, this right here, the cup on this Takumi, is an H&S cup because Iwata sends this big Gigundo cup with a detailed airbrush. Again, I have no idea why they did that, but yeah, it is yeah, you feel like a you feel like a magic user, what you can do with this. Just the control and how finely this thing atomizes paint. It's just amazing to me. It really is. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bust out a larger needle and nozzle size airbrush just to show you a comparison, okay? And we'll go from there, alright? I'll be right back. Alright guys, we're back. Got the micro all cleaned out and everything. And I'm back just to do a little comparison of everything. I'm back with the tank. Okay, this was the very first airbrush I ever bought. This is the second one actually. I ended up buying 2 of them. This is a Paasche Talon. Now this one here, I have the 0.66 millimeter needle and nozzle setup, and I use it with the fan pattern nozzle cap to do transparent bases over my t-shirt, the proper t-shirt for paint. I also do a top coat and whatnot, and or if I have like a large area of background. The way how I have this set up with the 0.66, this is not a precision instrument. Okay, it's clunky. The trigger assembly is clunky. There's no smoothness to it. But I just wanted to do a comparison. So we're doing the same thing. I've got, so it's a 0.66 needle and nozzle setup. Illustration black. 1 part paint to 1 part water, distilled water. So I got 10 drops of the mixture in here. And we're running at 22 psi. Okay. And let's see what I can do with this thing here. Okay, and right away, just the you can hear the thing like click down. Again, it's not a precision instrument, and I'm not talking trash about this airbrush. It has served its purpose, and what I use it for today, it does very, very well. Okay. But let's go here. And right away, there's a, there's a definite. Yeah, here we go. Man. The funny thing is you would think this thing would be gosh. Let me put this thing back on here. I don't like I'm not a fan of the slotted handles, but I'm even less fan of not having a handle on at all. Yeah, trying to well, the 0.66, it's, you know, it's not made to do a fine line. Yeah, it's not even flowing very well, which is odd, because you would think. So I'm going to add, just like how I did the rest, and about, I might have been 11 or 12 extra drops of reducer. Yeah, with this it's very easy to you have less control and much more paint comes out, and so you don't have the control you do with the Micron or the Evolution. Again, you know, it's not made, this airbrush is not made to do what these setups are intended for. But this was just a kind of a shits and giggles test. And right away, I'm noticing man, it's very inconsistent. That's a little bit better. I'm trying. Alrighty then. You know, the atomization, it's still, for what it is, it's still not all that it's not horrible or anything, but you don't have the control that you have with the Micron. There's no comparison whatsoever. It's odd. It seems like it's weird. I'm just to see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and reduce this even more. I'm going to add. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to add 10 more drops just to see what happens. A lot of the issues I'm having is the trigger on this thing is horrendous. That's part of my problem. I'm not sure how far the camera angle will go, but wow, I can't believe that some of these lines for 0.66. It actually really liked the that extra paint reduction. It's amazing. It's funny, you would think that big of a needle nozzle setup, the 1-to-1, it would spray much better than it is right here. But I'm able to get more consistent lines with this right here. Like I said, a lot of the issue with this guy right here is the very shoddy trigger that this guy has. See, now I'm able to more practice here. I was able to actually get, let's see if that's even in the picture. It is. You'll be able to see it once I take the camera over on this angle. That I was actually able to get some pretty thin lines here, and it kind of goes to my example of you don't need a detailed airbrush per se to get thin line work, but what you're not going to have is the control and the beautiful atomization that a detail-specific airbrush is going to achieve. Okay. You know, this still atomizes paint good, you know, but again, I have less control over it, and with this, with just a fraction, you get much more paint, okay, and so it's not going to be, you know, it's not with a 0.6 setup in this thing doesn't make for a great detailed airbrush, all right, and it's not meant to be a detailed airbrush with this setup, okay, but people ask, oh well, what's the difference? Okay. With a detailed airbrush, you want to be able to have that control of the fine atomization. So when you're doing your building layers on your artwork, okay. With this type of setup, I don't have that, because you pull back just a little bit and you get a lot more paint coming out, okay. But it still atomizes fairly well, you know. It's not, you know, there's no blotchiness to it or anything like that. And that's why when the original one I bought, you know, it's funny is you start replacing parts on these things and they're so inexpensive, it's like, okay, I might as well just go ahead and buy a new airbrush, the whole thing, okay. But so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have an earthquake moment here, guys, so you're gonna have to forgive me, all right. Let's see the best way to do this. I might just go ahead and, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take my camera off the stand and just bring it over here like this. All right, I'm gonna try to keep this thing as still as possible. And I might have to go back down to the, all right. So let me get in close, and over here, this section here, this is the very last part of the Paasche Talon. And some of the lines you can see are actually pretty fine. Okay. And that was adding an additional 10 drops after I added the first 10 drops. Okay. So there's the Paasche Talon through here. All right. The 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-1 with an extra 10 drops. Yeah, with the extra 10 drops. And then I added another 10 drops of reducer. Okay. And the atomization on that, which I said it before, it still atomizes fairly well, even for a 0.66 millimeter needle nozzle setup. But the main thing with this thing here I was having trouble with is it just has a shoddy trigger on it. Okay, and then we got the micron. Again, this, what I do here, okay, with the micron, it was just like another, it was a walk in the park. It was just, we're just going to go for a Sunday stroll, and this is what I can do. And it does it absolutely effortlessly with hardly any effort on my part. Okay, and that's the main difference. You can probably barely see in here that how beautifully this airbrush atomizes the paint. And then we have the evolution up top with the 0.15 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. 1-to-1 ratio, didn't like it. And then with the 1-to-1 with another 10 drops of reducer in it, preferred that much better. It took me a lot more effort to do this than to do with the Takumi. The Evolution still atomizes paint beautifully, in my opinion, just not with the precision that the Micron does. Okay. Zoom back out here. And there we go. Evolution up top, Takumi in the middle, Paasche Talon down below. And you can see, I'm sorry about the earthquake, but you know, in the middle there with the Takumi, it's just a beautiful work of art. The airbrush itself is a work of art. And my next, let me zoom out just a little bit. Zoom. Okay, sorry guys. So my next project I'm working on is the Goblin portrait, and I will solely be using the Takumi on that. And so you'll be able to see how important it is that the airbrush achieves that fine atomization and the control you have over the paint with it. And the piece that I'm fixing to do emphasizes the need for a high quality airbrush that you have control over the atomization. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate the subscribers I have very, very much. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me and starting this off with me again. And it feels good to get back in the saddle of things. So with that, have a good night and Happy New Year's. All right, later guys. Bye.